What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be bringing you another chess video, and this is going to be another chess trap. I ran into something like this when I was playing online, and I decided to take a closer look at it, and it can be very powerful and a very quick win for white. Just to preface it, like any other trap, your opponent will have to make some mistakes in order for him or her to fall into the trap. Of course, nothing's just going to work automatically, but these are some very obvious moves that your opponent probably would play in this situation. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. It comes out of the Scotch game, which starts with e4, uh, e5, knight f3, knight c6, and then d4. Now in this situation, black's best move is to take on d4, and they almost always will, because everything else puts them in a worse position. And now normally, in the Scotch game, you're going to see white recapture, and then a number of things. Sometimes knight takes knight. Other times, more of a main line is bishop c5, or sometimes you'll even see queen h4, which is what I like to play against the Scotch game a lot. However, we're not even going to be capturing this pawn back. Instead, we're going to be playing knight to g5, which looks really wacky. The purpose of playing d4 was now our bishop is defending this knight. Now, before we go into the trap, first I'd like to point out the best move, which is probably bishop to e7, which puts more pressure on this knight. And if this gets played against you, you probably just want to move back to f3, move your knight back. And it also, as we'll see, gives the king this important f8 square. However, a lot of the times you'll see the move h6. Because unlike the fried liver, where we'd have our bishop on c4, which kind of looks like the setup right now, our knight can't just come in and take and be protected by our bishop, forking these two pieces. However, h6 is a mistake, and the way to exploit this mistake is by taking this pawn on f7. So now the king is really forced to take, because if he doesn't, he'll lose material, either this queen or this rook. So after king takes, we're going to come in with bishop c4 check. And now if the king makes another mistake, or black makes another mistake, which is very likely, especially if he doesn't know this, then white is going to have an easy win. The best move in this situation is actually king to g6, and it seems a little crazy, but even after some attack, black's going to find a little home for its king on h7, and it's going to be a little difficult to penetrate. Certainly not impossible, but it's not the super easy win that we're looking for. However, usually we won't see black king to g6. We'll see king back to e8, because that's usually where the black king feels most comfortable before he castles. Obviously, he can't castle this game, but you'd rather not be in the center of the board during the opening of the game. So he feels like he has a knight and his king is back safer. Now, something in like the fried liver attack, the king is forced to be in the middle because it has to defend a piece, but here it doesn't, so it feels okay. However, after h6 and king back to e8, black is lost. From this position, we're going to play queen to h5, and now it's really over for black. It's a forced mate. The computer says to play g6, but we would just take, so that's just a computer move trying to prolong the mate. So it shows why h6 was a blunder, because before we could play g6 and we couldn't take on h6 because of the pawn protecting. So if this pawn was back here, we played g6, and then queen takes pawn is not an option because the pawn takes queen. But however, this pawn is obviously on h6, so now black doesn't have very many options. He's forced to bring his king to e7, and from this point, we can deliver another check with our queen to f7, obviously targeting the weakest square on the board for black at the beginning of the game, and this really forces the king to come out to the center, not where he wants to be early on. And these are all four sequences, as king to d6 must be played in this situation. Now we play our bishop up to f4, another check. And now black is really, really low on squares. One option is king to c5. But this is just simply met with queen to d5. And now black is forced to one of two moves, both leading to mate in one. You can play king to b6, where queen b5 is mate, or king to b4, where once again queen to b5 is checkmate. Finally, the last option in this situation is knight coming to e5. However, that doesn't work because of queen to d5 check, and then the king is forced. Oops, didn't mean to do that. The king is forced to e7, and now queen can come in and capture this knight on e5, and that is also checkmate. So this is an extremely, extremely powerful trap. That's really just incredibly difficult to stop, and in the great thing about the trap is that these moves are pretty obvious. Like h6 is a pretty obvious move, trying to kick the knight back, win a tempo early on. And how here it doesn't look like there's much of an attack, but if you play king back to e8, then you're lost. The computer would have it forcing you to play g6, just a computer move, and then it's a really strong force mate that your opponent could fall into. And if your opponent doesn't fall into it, you may lose a tempo or two, but overall the game should be okay for you. If, for example, they play here bishop e7, which is probably the best move, you're just going to want to move back, and you will lose a tempo, but you're probably going to get this material back, and you're going to have an okay game still. Sometimes the risk is worth the reward that's possible. So, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys like this trap. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.